Windows 98 is a graphical operating system by Microsoft. It is the second major release in the Windows 9X line of operating systems. It was released to manufacturing on May 15, 1998 and to retail on June 25, 1998. Windows 98 is the successor to Windows 95. Like its predecessor, it is a hybrid 16-bit/32-bit monolithic product with an MS-DOS-based boot stage. Windows 98 was succeeded by Windows 98 Second Edition on May 5, 1999, then by Windows ME on September 14, 2000. Microsoft ended mainstream support on June 30, 2002, and extended support for Windows 98, 98 SE, and ME on July 11, 2006. Development of Windows 98 began in the 1990s, initially using the codename Memphis to refer to the product. Many builds were released or leaked, starting with build 1351 on December 15, 1996 and ending with Windows 98 Second Edition. Web integration and shell enhancements. Windows 98 includes Internet Explorer 4.01. Besides Internet Explorer, many other Internet companion applications are included such as Outlook Express, Windows Address Book, Front Page Express, Microsoft Chat, Personal Web Server and a web publishing wizard, NetMeeting and NetShow Player which was replaced by Windows Media Player 6.2 in Windows 98 Second Edition. The Windows 98 shell includes all of the enhancements from Windows Desktop Update, an Internet Explorer 4 component, such as the Quick Launch Toolbar, Desk Bands, Active Desktop, Channels, ability to minimize foreground windows by clicking the button on the taskbar, single-click launching, back and forward navigation buttons, favorites, and address bar in Windows Explorer, image thumbnails, folder info tips and web view in folders, and folder customization through HTML-based templates. Dialog boxes now show up in the Alt-Tab sequence. Windows 98 also integrates shell enhancements, themes and other features from Microsoft Plus. For Windows 95 such as Drive Space 3, Compression Agent, Dial-Up Networking Server, Dial-Up Scripting Tool and Task Scheduler. 3D Pinball is included on the CD-ROM but not installed by default. Windows 98 had its own separately purchasable Plus pack called Plus 98. Title bars of Windows and dialog boxes support two color gradients. Windows 98 menus and tooltip support slide animation. Windows Explorer in Windows 98, like Windows 95, converts all uppercase file names to sentence case for readability purposes. However, it also provides an option to allow all uppercase names to display them in their original case. Windows Explorer includes support for compressed CAB files. The Quick Res and Telephony Location Manager Windows 95 Power Toys are integrated. Improvements to hardware support, Windows Driver Model. Windows 98 was the first operating system to use the Windows Driver Model. This fact was not well publicized when Windows 98 was released, and most hardware producers continued to develop drivers for the older VXD driver standard, which Windows 98 also supported. The WDM standard only achieved widespread adoption years later, mostly through Windows 2000 and Windows XP, as they are not compatible with the older VXD standard. Windows Driver Model was introduced largely so that developers would write source-compatible drivers for all future versions of Windows. Device driver access in WDM is actually implemented through a VXD device driver, NTKERN VXD, which implements several Windows NT-specific kernel support functions. NTKERN creates IRPs and sends them to WDM drivers. Support for WDM audio enables digital mixing, routing and processing of simultaneous audio streams and kernel streaming with high-quality sample rate conversion on Windows 98. WDM Audio allows for software emulation of legacy hardware to support MS-DOS games, direct sound support and MIDI wavetable synthesis. The Windows 95 11 device limitation for MIDI devices is eliminated. A Microsoft GS wavetable synthesizer licensed from Roland shipped with Windows 98 for WDM audio drivers. Windows 98 supports digital playback of audio CDs, and the second edition improves WDM audio support by adding direct sound hardware mixing and direct sound 3D hardware abstraction, direct music kernel support, mixer sample rate conversion for capture streams and multi-channel audio support. All audio is sampled by the kernel mixer to a fixed sampling rate, which may result in some audio getting upsampled or downsampled and having a high latency, except when using kernel streaming or third-party audio paths like ASIO, which allow unmixed audio streams and lower latency. Windows 98 also includes a WDM streaming class driver to address real-time multimedia data stream processing requirements and a WDM kernel mode video transport for enhanced video playback and capture. Windows driver model also includes broadcast driver architecture, the backbone for TV technologies support in Windows. Web TV for Windows utilized PDA to allow viewing television on the computer if a compatible TV tuner card is installed. TV listings could be updated from the Internet, and wave-top data broadcasting allowed extra data about broadcasts to be received via regular television signals using an antenna or cable, by embedding data streams into the vertical blanking interval portion of existing broadcast television signals. USB. Windows 98 had more robust USB support than Windows 95, which only had support in OEM versions. Windows 98 supports USB hubs, USB scanners and imaging class devices. Windows 98 also introduces built-in support for some USB human interface device class and PID class devices such as USB mice, keyboards, force feedback joysticks etc., including additional keyboard functions through a certain number of consumer page HID controls. USB audio device class support is present from Windows 98 SE onwards. Windows 98 Second Edition improved WDM support in general for all devices, and it introduced support for WDM for modems. Microsoft drivers support for both USB printers, and for USB mass storage device class is not available for Windows 98. Support for both was introduced in Windows 2000. However, generic third-party free drivers are available today for USB MSC devices. ACPI. Windows 98 introduced ACPI 1.0 support, which enabled standby and hibernate states. However, hibernation support was extremely limited, and vendor-specific. Hibernation was only available if compatible hardware and BIOS are present, and the hardware manufacturer or OEM supplied compatible WDM drivers, non-VXD drivers. However, there are hibernation issues with the FAT32 file system, making hibernation problematic and unreliable. Other device support improvements. Windows 98, in general, provides improved Euro and a broader range of Euro support for IDE and SCSI drives and drive controllers, floppy drive controllers and all other classes of hardware than Windows 95. There is integrated accelerated graphics port support. Windows 98 has built-in DVD support and UDF 1.02 read support. The still imaging architecture with Twain support was introduced for scanners and cameras, and image color management 2.0 for devices to perform color space transformations. Multiple monitor support allows using up to 8 multiple monitors and/or multiple graphics adapters on a single PC. Windows 98 shipped with DirectX 5.2, which notably included DirectShow. Windows 98 Second Edition shipped with DirectX 6.1. Networking enhancements. Windows 98 networking enhancements to TCP/IP include built-in support for WinSec2, SMB signing, a new IP helper API, automatic private IP addressing, IP multicasting, and performance enhancements for high-speed high-bandwidth networks or FC 2018, TCP fast retransmit and fast recovery. Multi-homing's support with TCP/IP is improved and includes a IP listener support. The DHCP client has been enhanced to include address assignment conflict detection and longer timeout intervals. NetBT configuration in the Wins client has been improved to continue persistently querying multiple Wins servers if it failed to establish the initial session until all of the Wins servers specified have been queried or a connection is established. NDIS 5.0 support means Windows 98 can support a wide range of network media, including Ethernet, Fiber Distributed Data Interface, Token Ring, Asynchronous Transfer Mode, Wide Area Networks, ISDN, X25, and Frame Relay. Additional features include NDIS Power Management, support for CoS, WMI and support for a single INF file format across all Windows versions. Windows 98 dial-up networking supports PPTP tunneling, support for ISDN adapters, multilink support, and connection time scripting to automate non-standard login connections. Multilink channel aggregation enables users to combine all available dial-up lines to achieve higher transfer speeds. PPP connection logs can show actual packets being passed, and Windows 98 allows PPP logging per connection. The dial-up networking improvements are also available in Windows 95 OS 2 and downloadable for earlier Windows 95 releases. For networked computers that have user profiles enabled, Windows 98 introduces Microsoft Family Logon, which lists all users that have been configured for that computer, enabling users to simply select their names from a list rather than having to type it in. The same feature can be added to Windows 95 if Internet Explorer 4.0 is installed. Windows 98 supports IRDAR 3.0 that specifies both serial infrared devices and fast infrared devices, which are capable of sending and receiving data at Formbit S. Infrared Recipient, a new application for transferring files through an infrared connection, is included. The IRDAR stack in Windows 98 supports networking profiles over the IRCAN kernel mode driver. Windows 98 also has built-in support for browsing DFS trees on SMB shares. Windows 98 2nd Edition added Internet connection sharing. Windows ME later supported NAT traversal by means of UPnP. UPnP and NAT traversal APIs can also be installed on Windows 98 by installing the Windows XP Network Setup Wizard. An L2TP IPsec VPN client can also be downloaded. By installing Active Directory client extensions, Windows 98 can take advantage of several Windows 2000 Active Directory features. Improvements to the system and built-in utilities. Performance improvements. Windows 95 introduced the 32-bit, protected mode cache driver, VCACHE, replacing SMARTDRV to cache the most recently accessed information from the hard drive in memory, divided into chunks. However, the cache parameters needed manual tuning as it degraded performance by consuming too much memory and not releasing it quickly enough, forcing paging to occur far too early. The Windows 98 VCACHE cache size management for disk and network access, CD-ROM access and paging is more dynamic compared to Windows 95, resulting in no tuning required for cache parameters. On the FAT32 file system, Windows 98 has a performance feature that can run applications from the disk cache itself if the code pages of executable files are aligned mapped on 4K boundaries, instead of copying them to virtual memory called map cache. This results in more memory being available to run applications, and lesser usage of the swap file. Windows 98 registry handling is more robust than Windows 95 to avoid corruption, and there are several enhancements to eliminate limitations and improve registry performance. The Windows 95 registry key size limitation of 64 kilobytes is gone. The registry uses less memory and has better caching. WinAligner tools designed to optimize the performance of executable code. WinAligner aligns binary sections along 4 kilobytes boundaries, aligning the executable sections with the memory pages. This allows the Windows 98 Map Cache feature to map directly to sections, and cache wall Linux is included in Windows 98 for automatically optimizing Microsoft Office programs. WinAlign is included in the Windows 98 Resource Kit to optimize other programs. Disk Defragmenter has been improved to rearrange program files that are frequently used to a hard disk region optimized for program start. Windows 98 also supports a fast shutdown feature that initiates shutdown without uninitializing device drivers. Windows 98 supports write-behind caching for removable disk drives. An FAT32 converter utility for converting FAT16 drives to FAT32 without formatting the partition is also included. Other system tools. A number of improvements are made to various other system tools and accessories in Windows 98. Microsoft Backup supports differential backup and SCSI tape devices in Windows 98. Disk Cleanup, a new tool, enables users to clear their disks of unnecessary files. Cleanup locations are extensible through disk cleanup handlers. Disk cleanup can be automated for regular silent cleanups. ScanReg and ScanReg are registry checker tools used to back up, restore or optimize the Windows registry. ScanReg tests the registry's integrity and saves a backup copy each time Windows successfully boots. The maximum amount of copies could be customized by the user through ScanReg file. The restoration of a registry that causes Windows to fail to boot can only be done from DOS mode using ScanReg. System Configuration Utility is a new system utility used to disable programs and services that are not required to run the computer. A maintenance wizard is included that schedules and automates ScanDisk, disk defragmenter and disk cleanup. Windows Script Host, with VBSCRIPT and script engines, is built-in and upgradable to version 5.6. System File Checker checks installed versions of system files to ensure they were the same version as the one installed with Windows 98 or newer. Corrupt or older versions are replaced by the correct versions. This tool was introduced to resolve the DLL issue and was replaced in Windows ME by System File Protection. The Windows 98 startup disk contains generic, real-mode AT-API and SCSI CD-ROM drivers and has been pre-configured to automatically start MS-DOS mode with CD-ROM support enabled. For computers without an operating system and that do not support booting from optical drives, the startup disk can be used to boot into MS-DOS and automatically start Windows 98 setup from the CD. The system could be updated using Windows Update. A utility to automatically notify of critical updates was later released. Windows 98 includes an improved version of the Dr. Watson utility that collects and lists comprehensive information such as running tasks, startup programs with their command line switches, system patches, kernel driver, user drivers, DOS drivers and 16-bit modules. With Dr. Watson loaded in the system tray, whenever a software fault occurs, Dr. Watson will intercept it and indicate what software crashed and its cause. All of the collected information is logged to the /Windows/Dr. Watson folder. Windows Report Tool takes a snapshot of system configuration and lets users submit a manual problem report along with system information to technicians. It has email confirmation for submitted reports. Accessories. Windows 98 includes Microsoft Magnifier, Accessibility Wizard and Microsoft Active Accessibility 1.1 API upgradable to MSAA 2.0. A new HTML help system with 15 troubleshooting wizards was introduced to replace WinHelp. A utility to convert FAT16 file systems to FAT32 is provided. Users can configure the font in Notepad. Microsoft Paint supports GIF transparency. Hyperterminal supports a TCP/IP connection method allowing it to be used as a telnet client. Imaging for Windows is updated. System Monitor supports output to a log file. Miscellaneous improvements, Telephony API 2.1, DCOM version 1.2, ability to list fonts by similarity determined using Panos information. Tools to automate setup such as Batch 98 and InfantStake support error checking, gathering information automatically to create an INF file directly from the registry of the machine, customizing IE4, shell and desktop settings and adding custom drivers. Several other resource kit tools are included on the Windows 98 CD. Windows 98 has new system event sounds for low battery alarm and critical battery alarm. The Windows 98 startup sound was composed by Ken Kato. Windows 98 shipped with Flash Player and Shockwave Player pre-installed. Windows 98 Second Edition. Windows 98 Second Edition is an updated release of Windows 98, released on May 5, 1999. It includes fixes for many minor issues, improved WDM audio and modem support, improved USB support, the replacement of Internet Explorer 4.0 with Internet Explorer 5.0, web folders, and related shell updates. Also included is basic OHCI-compliant FireWire divide camcorder support and SBP2 support for mass storage class devices, Wake on LAN support and Internet connection sharing, which allows multiple computers on a LAN to share a single Internet connection through network address translation. Other features in the update include DirectX 6.1, which introduced major improvements to Direct Sound and the introduction of Direct Music, improvements to asynchronous transfer mode support, Windows Media Player 6.2 replacing the older Media Player, Microsoft NetMeeting 3.0, MDAC 2.1 and WMI. A memory overflow issue was resolved, which in the older version of Windows 98 would crash most systems if left running for 49.7 days. Windows 98 SE could be obtained as retail upgrade and full version packages, as well as OEM and a second edition updates disc for existing Windows 98 users. Windows 98 Second Edition did not ship with the Wing API or Real Player 4.0, and like the original release of Windows 98, both of these being superseded by DirectX and Windows Media Player. Upgradability. Several components of the Windows 98 original release and Windows 98 Second Edition can be updated in newer versions. They include Internet Explorer 6 SP1 and Outlook Express 6 SP1, Windows Media Format Runtime and Windows Media Player 9 series on Windows 98 Second Edition and Windows Media Player 7.1 on Windows 98 Original Release. Windows Media Encoder 7.1 and Windows Media 8 Encoding Utility, DirectX 9.0c, MSN Messenger 7.0. Significant features from newer Microsoft operating systems can be installed on Windows 98. Chief among them are NET Framework versions 1.0, 1.1 and 2.0, Visual C++ 2005 Runtime, Windows Installer 2.0, GDI Plus Redistributable Library, Remote Desktop Connection Client 5.1 and the Text Services Framework. Several other components such as MSXML 3.0 SP7, Microsoft Agent 2.0, NetMeeting 3.01, MSAA 2.0, ActiveSync 3.8, WSH 5.6, Microsoft Data Access Components 2.81 SP1, WMI 1.5 and Speech API 4.0. Office XP is the last version of Microsoft Office to be compatible with Windows 98. Although Windows 98 does not fully support Unicode, certain Unicode applications can run by installing the Microsoft layer for Unicode. Press demonstration. The release of Windows 98 was preceded by a notable press demonstration at Comdex in April 1998. Microsoft CEO Bill Gates was highlighting the operating system's ease of use and enhanced support for plug-and-play. However, when presentation assistant Chris Capozala plugged a scanner in and attempted to install it, the operating system crashed, displaying a blue screen of death. Gates remarked after applause and cheering from the audience, "That must be why we're not shipping Windows 98 yet." Video footage of this event became a popular Internet phenomenon. Product life cycle. Microsoft planned to discontinue its support for Windows 98 versions on January 16, 2004. However, due to the continued popularity of the operating system, Microsoft decided to maintain support until July 11, 2006. Support for Windows ME also ended on this date. By that time, the Windows 98 market share as published by Hislink had diminished to 2.7%. Windows 98 is no longer available from Microsoft in any form due to the terms of Java-related settlements Microsoft made with Sun Microsystems. System requirements. System requirements include Intel 804860X2/66 MHz or a compatible CPU with a math coprocessor, 16 MB of RAM, at least 500 MB of space available on HDD. The amount of space required depends on the installation method and the components selected, but virtual memory and system utilities as well as drivers should be taken into consideration. Upgrading from Windows 95 or 3.1 140 euro 400 MB. New installation, 190 euro 305 MB. VGA or higher resolution monitor, CD-ROM or DVD-ROM drive, Microsoft mouse or compatible pointing device. Users can bypass hardware requirement checks with the undocumented /nm setup switch. This allows installation on computers with processors as old as the 80386. Windows 98 is not designed to handle more than 1.0 GB of RAM. Both Windows 98 and Windows 98 SE have problems running on hard drives bigger than 32 GB and certain Phoenix BIOS settings. A software update has been made available to fix this shortcoming. In addition, Windows 98 and Windows 98 SE are unable to handle hard drives that are over 137 GB in size with the default drivers, because of missing 48-bit LBA support or whole disk data corruption is likely. Third-party patches are available to fix this shortcoming. It is also possible to compress a Windows 98 installation using drive space 3 to less than 120 MB, using maximum compression, without deleting many files. References. Further reading, Windows 98 Resource Kit. Redmond, Washington, USA, Microsoft Press. 1998. ISBN A1-57231-644-6, Davis, Fred. Crosby, Kip. The Windows 98 Bible. Berkeley, California, Page Pit Press. ISBN A0-201-69690-8. External links, Windows 98. AA Euro Microsoft, Guidebook, Windows 98 Gallia Euro, a website dedicated to preserving and showcasing graphical user interfaces.